today's episode of Life After the Show, we're swapping it up and I'm going to be the general manager for a season. So, we're going to do a segment where today's episode is about the position players and the next episode is about the pitchers. So, tune in to see what I have to say and what moves I would make in my first season as general manager of the New York Yankees.
Town goes Frazier.
Okay. On today's episode of If I Were the GM, we've got moves to talk about. And one thing that I want to make particularly clear is that I'm not an actual GM. This is just all my own perspective, all my own analysis, and basically just some moves that I would like to see happen if I were the GM of the Yankees. So today, that's what I'm going to be, and you guys get to watch and see what I've got ready for y'all. So let me just look over here at the docket, because on the docket, I've got a lot of things written down, right? And at the top of the list, because today is about position players, at the top of the list are two positions for me, center field and shortstop. Now, one of them we have a vacancy in. The other one, we have a player that underperformed and will be starting the season on the injured list. So obviously, it begs the question of, will we put someone else there for the time being that could be there for the entire season? Or will it just be someone that will be there until he's back? Now, if you were to ask me, I've got one player and really one player only on the list that makes the most sense. And it's the player that every single team is going to be going after. I think if I were to put it out there right now, I think it's a little extremely unlikely that this player leaves the team that he was on for his entire career. But there's really only one premium shortstop in the free agency market, and his name is Bichette. So obviously, everybody knows he's coming off of a season with the Blue Jays in which they went to the World Series and they lost to the Dodgers. But that doesn't mean that he can't find himself at a new uniform next year. So Romeo leaves the chair. Maybe he doesn't want Bo. I don't know. So with all of that to be said, I think it's extremely interesting to see that after a player goes to the World Series having the season like he did and they don't win, will he try to find a new landing spot? I don't know. I still think it's unlikely. I still think that Bo Bichette's going to go back to the Blue Jays. I think it's unfinished business. But as GM of the New York Yankees, it is up to me to make sure that I at least test the market and see what Bo's interest level is. Now, Bo's going to be getting a very, very big contract, and he's relatively young. He's very young. So it will have some years attached to it. But Bo is worth it, especially given the fact that what you guys and what we all saw at the shortstop position last year looked like for the Yankees. So I think that if it was to make the most sense, you go out, you see what Bo wants, you offer him a big deal, because if you think about it, I mean, there are players that the Yankees offered contracts to in the past, or maybe they didn't put another year on top of it, and then they get to watch those guys go out and be World Series champions or be really, really good performing players for another team when it could have been them. One of the players I'm specifically talking about, Yamamoto for the Dodgers. I know that Hal Steinbrenner made comments saying that they felt very good about the deal that they gave him. I think that there was maybe like 1 year off the deal. I don't know the exact specifics, but all I know is that they felt that the offer was really good. The Dodgers went a little bit further, and then you see that guy throw like 4 times in one series, closing out games after he throws 96 pitches. I mean, you just want to avoid things like that for the future, because if it means that one guy that you go after is the reason that you don't win the World Series, or the reason that you do win the World Series, it's worth it or it's not worth it. You really got to you got to figure it out. So I know I'm rambling at that point, but all that to be said, Bo Bichette needs to be a legitimate person that the Yankees go after. They need to offer him a contract that makes the most sense, maybe overpay him a little bit just to try to fill that spot. I mean, you really, really, really have to make sure that going into the next season, we're going to do everything that we can to try to improve that shortstop position, because as I've said, shortstop and center field are premium positions. You want your two best players playing that position. And can you actually say that your best player is playing that position currently? No. So that one, again, I need to put it out there. I think it's a little unlikely that they go out and they're able to get Bo. I think a lot of teams won't have a good chance. The only team that might actually have a chance outside of the Blue Jays, in my opinion, might be the Dodgers. But again, still think it's kind of unlikely. So what do we have? We have a plan B at shortstop. In my opinion, another one, maybe unlikely, but one that I would like to see the Yankees at least try. and that is the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals have talked about a little bit in terms of being a team that's going to rebuild. So some players could be on the block. I know I've seen Arenado talk about waiving a no trade clause. I know we've got a really good shortstop that plays that position at an extremely, extremely high level. And his name is Masyn Winn. And Mason's got a lot of years on that contract. I mean, he's just coming off of a Gold Glove win. He was the best shortstop in baseball. Offensive numbers weren't insane, but if we're talking about just somebody that's going to play that position better than what the guy that was previously playing it did, Masyn Winn's a really good option to lean on, especially given the fact that he's young. He's got a bazooka of a right arm, high level shortstop, and obviously you can dream on what that player could look like. So I think given the fact that the free agency market for the shortstops is a little slim right now, if you can't get Bo, you at least explore a trade and Masyn Winn and see what they're doing. I think that one's interesting. I personally like that one. I've seen that guy play in the minor leagues. I think he's good. I think that offensively he can get better. I think defensively he's only going to get better. So Bo Bichette leading the way at the first shortstop you go after. And in a trade situation, Masyn Winn is a guy that I'm looking to go after. So now that we've handled the shortstops, we will move on to the center fielders. Everybody knows that center field is the spot that the Yankees have to look at this year. So, given the fact that Trent Grisham and Cody Bellinger both were on the Yankees and both are free agents at the same time, that doesn't bode well for the Yankees right now. I know that they offered Trent Grisham a qualifying offer, so it begs the question to see if he'll accept it. Highly unlikely, in my opinion. But for me, this is, again, just for me, and everyone is entitled to their own opinions. But if I were to be looking at who I would want to be playing center field for the New York Yankees and rank them 1A and 1B, it's these two guys. It's going to be Luis Robert Jr., and right below him at 1B, Cody Bellinger. So the reason why I got to those two names and why that they're 1A, 1B is that you can't go wrong with either. I think if you were to look at what currently the players are doing, Cody Bellinger makes the most sense given the fact that he's gone out, had productive seasons, played for the Yankees, comfortable in that atmosphere. But I'm looking at the bigger picture in terms of the player that I think has extreme offensive potential and is a true Gold Glove center fielder, and that is Luis Robert Jr. So it's interesting to me, given the fact that when I was with the White Sox for the short period of time, Luis Robert Jr. was like the best player on the planet. I mean, he made an all-star game. He was hitting 40 homers. He was stealing bases. He was winning. He was playing center field at an extremely high level. And then he's kind of regressed. And one thing to be noted is he has had some injury issues. I think that since he made his major league debut, he's averaging somewhere around 90 to 92 games per season. So that's something that you have to keep an eye out. But if we're talking about just like extreme potential, Luis Robert Jr. from the White Sox being traded to the Yankees makes the most sense. The White Sox just picked up his team option. I think it's 20 to 22 million. I think there's another season on top of that after that. So you can guarantee that if you trade for him, you at least get 2 seasons of him. That'd be huge. That would be huge. And it would be for about 40 to 44 million versus like Cody Bellinger. You get him, again, not trying to be the guy that like takes away from what Cody's doing, but you're going to be paying that guy hundreds plus million. So if we're talking about just short term right now and seeing what we've got, I'm going after Luis Robert Jr. And one thing to be mentioned is that I'm not here to explore what players will be traded from the Yankees to get these guys. I don't think I'm qualified for that. After all, it is my first day as GM, so I'm still figuring it out. I'm just talking about who I've got on the board, what I like, going into next season, areas that I think that the Yankees could improve in. So let's go after them. Again, Luis Robert Jr. will be the first guy that you go after in trade terms. If you can't get a trade worked out because the White Sox have been extremely stingy in getting rid of this guy, Cody Bellinger is obviously a guy that you've got on the phone. I've got both of them on the phone at the same time, maybe on the same line, just talking to him, seeing what we've got. But selfishly, I would like to see Luis Robert Jr. first. So moving on to a position that I think is extremely, extremely important to figure out, and that is third base. Third base for me is a huge wild card going into next season. You know, ironically, A-Rod's documentary dropped. We're going to get to see how great he was at third. Obviously, that guy was, 696 homers, played third base, played shortstop, hit a lot of freaking nukes, played great. But that's not what we've got at third base for the Yankees right now. We have a third baseman that got traded from the Colorado Rockies that is a defensive first player making 32 million over the next 2 years. I don't really know what the thought process behind that move was last year. Obviously, I know that they wanted some defense. They probably wanted another hitter. They wanted a guy that they know could hit some occasional home runs. But the track record of what he's done in the past is kind of that he's going to hit at a low level average. He's going to have some homers. And he's going to play really good third base. But that's not what we need. We do need good third base, but we need offensive production to be at an extremely high rate from a third baseman, especially for the New York Yankees. So, who do we have at the top of the Christmas list? I think you guys know. I think you guys know. And I hope that everyone has been able to get rid of all that anger that they hold from all the players that used to play for the Astros in that 2017 season, because at the top of the list for me, baby, is Alex Bregman. He is, in my opinion, priority number one this offseason. I know I didn't put him there in terms of who we spoke about first, but I would like to see him at the one spot on my list whenever I write it down. And Alex Bregman at third base is a must. He's a must. He's a must. And how you get him there is, I don't know. It's to be determined. I think that you might have to look at talking about trading Ryan McMahon. You might have to eat a little bit of that contract. I don't think teams are going to want to pay the full thing if you get him. I'm sure that there are teams out there that would be willing to take him for a little bit of a less price tag. So we're doing that. We're trading Ryan McMahon. Got to. He's got to go, because you got to have Alex Bregman playing third for you next year. That guy is a proven veteran. It's crazy to say veteran because he's like 31, but proven veteran, and he's gone out. He's had extreme success, and ultimately, he's just going to be the kind of guy that you want in the makeup and the DNA of a New York Yankee. And we'll get to that because I'm going to talk about what's after some of these players and things that I need to be changed in order to see the team succeed. So, Alex Bregman at third. So, as I said, you got Bichette being targeted at shortstop, Masyn Winn as a targeted trade shortstop, Cody Bellinger, free agency sign, Luis Robert, trade sign. You guys see what I'm doing here? And third baseman, free agent signing in Alex Bregman. I'm not really thinking about trading for another third baseman right now, just because there's another guy on the market that makes sense if you can't get Bellinger, and his name is Eugenio Suarez. That guy hits nukes. That guy's got interesting hair. He's got interesting hair. He might be the first Yankee player that might test that hair policy, because I know that they changed the beard policy, but I haven't seen anyone go out there with super long perm-looking hair yet. So that'll be interesting. So I like Eugenio Suarez playing third base for the New York Yankees. I mean, he went crazy last year. He was hitting homers, and obviously got traded back to the Mariners. So teams see value in him to want to add him to their club. I think that you'd probably be trying to fight a lot of other clubs to sign that guy. But if you can't get Alex Bregman for a little bit of a less price tag, you might be able to get Eugenio Suarez. So two really good players at third. It ultimately upgrades the team. Honestly, it's going to start pushing you up into that higher threshold of the payroll. But what are we doing if we're the New York Yankees and we're not spending money? That's what we do. That's what we're known for. So I think that some other things that need to be mentioned is that I do have two other players on my list that I haven't talked about yet. One of them I think is interesting. I think it's interesting because when you think about what left field is going to look like, I've been reading stuff saying that Jasson Dominguez is playing winter ball to get more comfortable in left field. And I can speak from my own pure experience. Left field in the Dominican versus left field in Yankee Stadium, not even close. Not even close. Yankee Stadium's left field position is the biggest position on the field in the outfield, and it's going to be really hard to replicate what it's like out there, how the wind swirls, how the sun gets in your eyes, how the balls play out there. It's really tough. So from the eye test, Jasson Dominguez extremely struggled to just look comfortable out there. And again, I had that experience myself. I think that the only guy that's played left and looked comfortable out there in the last 10 to 15 years is Brett Gardner. So shout out to him, because he's the only one that actually looked the part out there. The rest of us have just been dancing around and fumbling balls in our gloves. So What guy do I have to potentially split a little bit of time with Jasson Dominguez? This one is interesting. Mike Yastrzemski. Mike Yastrzemski. So I think that I think his potential or his preference position is right field. Um, Got to see how many games he's played and left because I'm probably going to get roasted in the comments. But the Yankees love to throw guys in positions that they've never played before, so that guy fits the mold. But maybe for my mold, no. But in real time right now, I've got Mike Yastrzemski in the outfield. He plays outfield good, left-handed bat. Not crazy offensive numbers, but I don't think that he would be a super expensive outfield position. I think he was making like $9 million last year. So if you can get it around that or a little bit lower, I think that one's interesting given the fact that Jasson Dominguez will carry the bulk of the outfield left field spot as of right now, unless some huge moves are made. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to go out there, you need to have somebody ready to come in the later innings that can play a little bit better in defensively than what Jasson can and close the gap. So got him written down. Another guy written down that I've got that I would love to at least just see what the numbers are looking like, what his off or what his interest level is like. Pete Alonso. And I know. Let me just finish. Don't roll your eyes, don't scuff, don't do nothing. Pete Alonso could be your primary first baseman. You could move Ben Rice to playing catcher. You could have Austin Wells backing him up, occasionally flopping them. But that's just that would take like a rocket science to figure that whole Giancarlo Stanton situation out because he will be getting the bulk of the DH position at bats. But if you do plan on trying to put Austin Wells as the backup catcher and give Ben Rice more time, another first base option makes sense. I don't think that's what they're looking at right now. I think they should a little bit. I really do. I think that the way that Ben Rice played last year is just going to be a huge indicator of what's to come. And obviously, if there's a chance to go out and add a guy like Pete Alonso and put Ben Rice as your starting catcher, I mean, you got to do it. You have to do it. I mean, you could be talking about like a super lineup if that was to be the play that you were to be able to pull off. So Pete Alonso is somebody that obviously has interest in playing in New York from the past. Maybe that's not true. Maybe he wants to get out, but I mean to say he has success playing in New York. So Pete Alonso could potentially be a person that you go after. He's going to be another big contract, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs. And ultimately, he's just going to be one of those guys that you got to see in your lineup. So let's just get off of player names right now and let's just talk about a little bit of a shift that I would like to see in the Yankees offensive approach and defensive approach moving forward, right? Romeo's in the background. He clearly has something to say, but as GM, come here. As GM, assistant GM, he does have the ability to make moves. So beg the bar the question. Here comes Rome. All right. So let's just talk about this, right? One of the things that stood out to me last year was the fact that the Yankees do commit a lot of errors. And I do think that one of the reasons that they've committed a lot of errors is that they do play players out of position. They haven't in the past had the most athletic players playing every single position. I think that they have severely overestimated home runs versus the defensive, I guess, value that it brings. You know, I mean, I feel like whenever I was on that Yankees team from the past, it was like the average player was like 6'4", 230, and didn't have a lot of speed, but had a lot of thump. But with a lot of thump comes a lot of swing and miss. And with a lot of swing and miss comes a lot of zeros on that scoreboard. So given the fact that the Yankees have had issues with that, I think that we would need to see a little bit of a change and shift of offensive approach and players that we go after. So if you see all the players that I mentioned, those are athletic guys. Those are guys that play their position at a premium level. Those are guys that get on base and ultimately have a lot of OPS with averages, with a lot of really good approaches. So I think that when you look at all the teams that made it, majority of them are built with players that get on base, and obviously just work counts. I feel like when I watched some of the Yankees players, it was just like, when in doubt, try to rip it out. And that can't happen. That can't happen because in today's game, when a batter steps in the box, they're playing the pitcher's game, you know, hitters are reactionary to what the pitchers are throwing. And nowadays, every time you step in that batter's box, that catcher goes to his armband. That catcher sees, oh, this guy struggles with sliders down and away. He's going to throw something that looks like a slider down and away to set the slider back up, down and away. And then he gets you in his position, and oh, I'm trying to rip it to right field or rip it to left field, and I'm down 0-2 in the count, and then you're in a bad spot. So I think if you think about some of the names that I mentioned, Bregman, really good hitter. Bichette, really good hitter. Bellinger, really good hitter. I'm continuing to look at this. Eugenio Suarez, really good hitter, home runs. Luis Robert Jr., really good hitter, struggled a lot. He's honestly, out of all of them, the one that has the worst approach, and I hate to say it because he's one of the ones I would love to see them get. I mean, I feel like he does just swing a lot at random stuff, but it's something that you could work on with him given the fact the last 2 seasons have been down for him. And I think that teams are just continuing to throw to what they believe he's going to swing at, which is everything. So maybe I'm eating my words as I'm saying this, but we're talking about Gold Glove center fielders with extremely high ceilings. So maybe I need to change Cody Bellinger to 1A and Luis Robert to 1B. But still, we're on the phone with both of their agents and teams trying to see what we can do. Yastrzemski, he's a good player. Obviously, he's not crazy in all these positions, but the Yankees, let me just put it this way. The Yankees aren't broken. They're just misbuilt, okay? They have a few things that they need to work on. I mean, you would have Jazz at second. You could have potentially Pete Alonso at first. More than likely, you'd have Ben Rice at first. Third base, you could have Bregman or Suarez. Really good options. On the bench, you could potentially have McMahon or traded him. Another really good position to have a left-handed hitter that could maybe come in and, I don't know, play third base in the ninth inning or something. But if you have Bregman, he's staying at third. Yastrzemski potentially playing left, backing up Dominguez. That'd be really good. And then you have Bellinger in center. Could flop at first every now and then. Again, I'm struggling here because I like Luis Robert. And then you have Luis Robert in center field. So then you got Judge and Wright. So the biggest wild card of this is how they're going to handle the shortstop position, if you ask me. The shortstop position is one that needs to be fixed ASAP. So that's why we started with that. Bo Bichette, maybe. I think Masyn Winn is a bigger or less of a long shot, but still a long shot. So with all that to be said, all the moves that I've given you guys, I think it's extremely likely that Anthony Volpe will still be the shortstop for next season, and that Caballero, if he's not traded or injured in the offseason, will be the guy that fills in until Volpe is ready. So I hope that when I'm the New York Yankees GM, we can instill a little bit of a different offensive approach with our team. We can talk about how the fact that launch angle is not everything. It's a lot, but launch angle is not everything if you're swinging at everything. So we do need to figure out how we can instill a little bit of, awareness to not swinging at everything. You know, I feel like whenever I watch a lot of those games, it's very quick at bats. They're letting pitchers off the hook really fast. They're not necessarily working the counts the way that other teams are. Now, some games they are, but overall, as like a whole, the only one that I can think of that's like, wow, this guy just every single at bat is nails and knows the strike zone is Aaron Judge. And I think given the fact that he is cemented in that lineup for many, many years to come and that he is your best player, you need to put other players around him that allow him to get more strikes. Obviously, people are going to continue to respect what he has, but you need to put other players around him to where you can't just only walk Judge and expect that, oh, this is the guy that we're going to face and we like this. Obviously, you put Bregman, Luis Robert, Cody Bellinger, Bichette, Suarez, any of those guys, you put them around him or in front of him, you're going to create a little more stress for every single pitch that's thrown versus just knowing like, okay, this guy that they had, he swings first pitch 93% of the time, because that is numbers that they know. They do know who swings at what count and the most likeliness, and they throw pitches that are very, very like low, what do they call it? Low chances of being like struck for like big homers or big swings. So what I mean by that is maybe they throw up in the zone, they throw sinkers down, they throw sinkers on the hands. They just throw pitches that necessarily don't warrant a lot of like success. So if you're one of those guys that's just going up there and when in doubt, try to rip it out, good luck. Because that's not what's going to get you paid. That's not what is going to get you to the World Series. So we're trying to get over the hump, not to the hump. And like I said, Yankees aren't broken, they're just misbuilt. So on this segment of if I were GM, I'm saying it. The team's better if we get all those players. So that's something that I want to see moving forward. I want to see all these guys. I want to go after these guys. I'm going to go for it, and I'm ultimately going to achieve it. That's what I'm doing if I'm the New York Yankees GM. So thank you for tuning in to the offensive side. I think if you were to think about the pitching side, there's a lot of good ones out there. There are a lot of good ones. I'm excited to do the pitching one just because you know, I've faced some of these guys or I don't want to face any of these guys. And I think that if you think about the Yankees as a whole, they love pitchers. Like they truly love pitchers. So a lot of these guys are nasty and they will have the ability to shut it down in any given moment. So look for the if I were the GM of the Yankees pitching edition coming up shortly.